Good evening and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. My name is Louis Mendes. Hope you guys are all well on your Thursday evening. On this week's big match preview, we will be looking back at the 1-1 draw with Derby County in midweek, and of course ahead to Saturday's trip up to Deepdale to take on Preston North End in the Championship. Joining me this evening on his Todd in the studio to look ahead and look back is Mr. Mark Newbury. How you doing, Mark?
I'm all right, mate. It's double time if it's just me, isn't it? I wasn't sure what the contract says. I've got to go back and look at the fine print. No, I'm good, mate. I'm still reflecting on Tuesday night, if I'm honest. And I still haven't decided how I feel about the point. So we'll get into that as a deep dive. But yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah. I mean, that will be an interesting one to see how people feel about that, because there's elements of, maybe in the second half it was coming, but also when you get to 12 minutes from the end and you had a couple of chances after it went to 1-1, you're sort of thinking like, could have won that again, as is tradition with all of our championship games. So we'll look back at the game at Derby. We're going to hear the goal very shortly. We want to hear from you guys on that game and looking ahead to Preston as well. We're going to hear from Nathan Jones looking ahead to the Preston game. We're also going to hear from George Hodgson from the Lancashire Post as we find out how Preston are feeling ahead of the Thierry Small derby. We want to know what you guys made of Tuesday as well. You can email us studio@charltonlive.co.uk. You can tweet us at Charlton Live, or the best thing to do is to head into the live chat here on YouTube and let us know your feelings either back at the game at Derby or ahead to Saturday's trip up to Preston North End. Mark, so before we hear the goals, I'm glad you haven't made your mind up now, because it makes me excited about what's about to come out your mouth as you process it throughout the next 30 seconds to a minute. But so it's a 1-1 draw. I mean, for starters, we scored one of our best goals, team goals for a long time, with James Bree, who's not exactly known for his goal scoring, making it 2 in 4 days for him. He'd only scored 2 league goals in his 11-year career before that, and now he scored 2 in 4 days for us, and that was just a fantastic goal. And in the first half, it really felt like it was sort of there for the taking. But second half, I think, if we're being honest, you could feel Derby County coming back into that game. And moments after Thomas Kaminski made his first save for us all season, the first one he's actually had to make, we conceded from arguably a set piece, or certainly the second phase of a set piece, which isn't really like us. And we settled for a point. Could have been all 3. Could have been none at stages. Which way? How do you actually feel about it now? Let it all out. Breathe. Come on. It's just you and me.
I think it was the archetypal game of exactly 2 halves. I thought the first half we looked so good. We were fluid. We were passing it well. I thought Derby looked nervous. I thought the fans started on them pretty early. By about the 20th minute, you could hear them grumbling, as it were, but I think we were sort of like in control of that. So when the goal actually came, and the beautiful teamwork, the touch from Kelman, even I was a bit when he first got it, I was a bit about TC, because there was a big gap in the penalty area, and I'd said this in our private chat. The penalty area, I was always taught, drive into the penalty area, because if you then make the defender think more, they're not going to dive in. And TC sort of like tend to go sideways. It seemed a bit churlish to say, well, look, we've scored from it, so it doesn't really matter. But his ball to the middle, the cushion touch, and when Doc's just cushioned it over one bounce and Bree, I mean, I've put what a hit, but what a hit. And I just thought myself, from that's when we sort of like, if we'd got a second before half time, I think it would have been a totally different game. Second half, they flooded into midfield. I don't think Doc and Coventry really got a moment's pace. And defensively, I understand why he did it, because he explained he wanted more of a physical presence. I don't think the subs worked as well. Miles, fair enough. But I just think Bree was the most dangerous person, and Carey were both really dangerous. And I didn't see swapping Nibs on. I'd have thought if you want to put some speed on, because they're going to be pushing forward, put Apter on. So, and I just thought it was just a little too defensive with Burke dropping into the back as well. So when it came after Kaminski, it was an amazing good save. I mean, they slaughtered the guy for not finishing it down the side, where Godden would have just rolled it down the side. But he's hit it well, great save from the corner. It's a weird one because the guy who crosses it back was on a really weird position to be on that side of the penalty area. You wouldn't normally have a player that deep. So when it comes across, the fact that he can look up, and the centre half's a big guy, but we had defenders on for that. So could he have stopped the cross? Not really, but could we have done a bit more of a cross coming in? Nathan didn't seem too irate at the end. He thought it was a fair result. I think looking at our second half, it was. And yes, we could have won it in the last minute with like the nibs and the one with Doc hit Tanto. But they also had a chance. If a guy had gone across Kaminski, would have been looking at a 2-1 defeat and would be ruining the chances. So you look at it as a point on the board, another point, and the unbeaten run continues. So glass half, 3/4 full. Shall let's put it that way. It's not totally full, it's 3/4 full.
Yeah, quarter empty though, of course. Tim Jackson says, very positive point. You can't expect 2 10 out of 10 performances back to back. If someone had said 4 points from those 2 games last Thursday, I think everyone would have taken it. It shows you how well that Nathan Jones and the boys have spoilt us, that I was a little bit, we could have won that, but it wasn't to be. Right, let's have a listen back to the goals then from Charlton TV. It was Brownie alongside Terry Smith.
The throw-in is thing touched by Jones into the arms of Kaminski, who sends it long quickly up towards Kelman. And brilliant touch and takedown from Kelman, and finds Campbell to his left. Campbell with space into the penalty area on the left-hand side, looking for options now. Ball out to the edge and Carey. Doherty trying to tee up Bree, takes the shot. Oh, what a finish that is! Outstanding strike from James Bree on the right-hand side, halfway towards the corner of the penalty area in the 6-yard box, and he absolutely leathered that into the top corner, and the Addicts have the lead.
Yeah, unstoppable. But I want to rewind a little bit to Kelman's first touch. It's an absolute joke. He was twisting, he was turning, he took his eye off the ball. Somehow he got enough eye on the ball to be able to kill that stone dead with his right foot. Feeds Campbell, and it's a wonderfully constructed goal from that point. But if you're Derby, why are you dropping so deep? But Kelman does first class to hold that ball up, feed Campbell. He drives down into the box, and it's all about intelligent setting. Into the edge of the box, set into, I think it's Doherty's path, set into Bree's path, and that volley is unstoppable. It's an absolute joke, actually. Keeper doesn't even see it. But I want to go back to that Kelman touch. It's led to the first goal, it's led to the opening goal, and we were asking for quality. That is quality.
Corner comes in, it's a deep one. Gillespie gets a touch, an important one as well, but it'll be picked up on the left-hand side by Travis. Header comes in, and that is the equaliser. I think it was Clark with a header. Ball across the penalty area for the first corner. Gillespie with the touch. Travis got there, and his ball back in. It's met by it's either Clark or Adjumang, but I'm guessing it's Clark. And we're back level.
We are back level, and we had the warning shot. And we're going to have a very nervy last 12 minutes plus added on time, but he's got away from his marker. The marker was Ramsey. They'd had a collision in the middle of the 6-yard box just previously, and then Clark just drifts off of him, and he gets caught 2 or 3 yards wrong side, and that allows Clark to have the free header towards the back post.
There we go. That's the highlights from the game at Pride Park in midweek with Tell and Brownie. We got to talk a bit more about our goal, the one we scored, because in the first half, I thought we were comfortable again. You were right that the crowd were there for turning. You could hear them booing already when that goal went in. I know they haven't had a great start to the season, and perhaps Tuesday's second half shows there really are no easy games in the Championship, even against a side that hasn't started that great. But the goal that we scored was just phenomenal. I mean, the touch from Kelman there, when Brownie described it as a joke, you couldn't tell if he was being positive or negative at first, but you know exactly what he meant, really. I mean, it was such an unbelievable touch, and I thought he had a good game again, Charlie Kelman. TC getting involved again. You weren't sure if you wanted him to drive into the box a bit quicker or not, but they sent it inside for Carey, who was full of running again and lively. Doherty the vision, and then Breezer, the man who doesn't score goals but makes it look easy. I mean, it was a fantastic goal. The finish was superb as well. It really was one of the most impressive team goals that we've scored in a long time.
Yeah, I can't really think back to the last team goal, which made me just go, wow, that's just, I mean, unless you count Carey's on Saturday against Blackburn. It's one of those ones, and what's noticeable is Doc's getting a lot further up the pitch. So you expect Carey to be there, he's part of the front three, but Doc's touch, the cushion touch, was... Because I think Carey said he laid it on thinking Doc was going to hit it, but Doc's vision to see Bree on that side, and he's got right over it. And like he said, maybe 9 times out of 10, that flies up, straight up and goes over the bar and into row Z. And the 1 in 10 times, you get an absolute peach like that. There was just so much to like about that, but because it came out so quickly from Kaminsky, it did really sort of unsettled. And people saying, "Oh, it's that long ball," but I think when you've got Kelman, who's like you say, I thought he had a good game as well, and I think it is going to click for him sooner or later. Whether it's just I don't know whether he's going to take pens if we get penalties. Most strikers normally want to sort of do that, and I had a feeling we were going to get a penalty Tuesday, and he was going to score, but it didn't come through. He's getting a decent understanding with TC now. So I think when it comes to a conversation, what do you change? I think if you're going to keep TC and Kelman up front working as hard as they work, and the midfield coming in, it's funny because obviously the club have put out today about the goals of a month, and we've got Carey's couple, one against Millwall and the one against Blackburn, and we've got Breeze as well. And I just think to myself, again, I'm sitting here just undecided whether I prefer Carey's one against Blackburn the other day or Breeze one the other night, because the team elements in both, the strikes are both clean. I'm as fantastic as Breeze is. I'm going towards Carey's against Blackburn, literally from him having it from that distance and having it with. Not a lot of backlift, but the power he gets into that rocket from that distance. With Bree, it's sat up nicely to be hit, but you've got to then finish it. So, I mean, look, these are such positive signs. We think of all the doom and gloom we've had over the past few seasons, and we're sort of not complaining as such, because like I say, I think at the end of the day, it was a fair point, but how far we've come to say, hey, look, we've taken a point at Derby. Could have been more. And we're sort of have that kind of disappointment. And it's not an arrogance. And that's the difference. I think certain teams in our division, Birmingham, Wrexham, have an arrogance about them who, we're so good. And I think what we're doing, and we're showing it in the way we play, is almost, it's going to sound funny, a touch of humility about the results, about how we are. More ethos is on the team. If you listen, all the interviews you guys have done, you and Rich and Terry, with the players, what's coming across to the fans is how much of a team, how much of a squad, and the togetherness which Nathan has moulded. So, I mean, whether they still have it in 3 months' time, if people aren't getting the kind of game time they think they're going to get. But remember, we've just got a lot of these guys in on contracts for the next 2-3 seasons. They have got a lot of time, a lot of games to play, and a lot of games to earn the shirt. So it's a way to look at those two goals. I mean, I don't know which of the two goals. If I said to you, Carey's against Blackburn or Breeze the other night, which one would you go for?
It's a tough one, really, because I'm not really used to us scoring fantastic interplay goals like we saw on Tuesday. But also, I love someone who just twats one in from about 25 yards and kicks it really hard. So I don't know, different goals for different needs, isn't it? Shiny Phil said our goal was basically us saying, now look here, Derby, this is how it's done. It was a fantastic goal. It really was enjoyable to watch. I mean, there was a good point made by Robert in the chat a bit further up, saying, which you sort of just said, Mark, what we fail to mention sometimes is the team is still evolving and continuing to pick up points in difficult circumstances. 4 games unbeaten now in the Championship. I mean, you can't be sniffing at that. And again, as we've said all season, it could have easily been more. in terms of more games unbeaten, or it could have been more points out of than the 8 we've taken out of those 4 games as well. Jake said, evening, I felt we could have nicked the game on Tuesday, but felt once Kelman and TC came off, we lost our pressing. I think these back-to-back games will test our depth throughout the season. So it is interesting. I thought the subs, I mean, I feel like they were probably ones that needed to be made in terms of, I'm guessing, because of the fact that Kelman, Carey and Bree, all 3 of whom were playing really well, came off, suggested to me that maybe, I know Nathan said it was about getting some physicality up the pitch and stuff, but I do wonder if that maybe there was a little element of they've got to keep in mind the amount of game time that these players are playing in this very busy week. Because, I mean, I do feel like with Carey coming off, with Kelman, who was good, and Bree going forward, I do feel like we lost a fair bit. And Derby were always going to ramp up the pressure. That was always going to happen. But I feel like without, particularly Carey and Kelman on the pitch, we lost a little bit going up the other end for a while. And yeah, maybe it didn't quite work for us on Tuesday.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Nibs is a strange one because he puts in the effort, but it still doesn't look right as such. I think I'd have still gone for Apter. Miles, we know, can hold the ball well. Whether he has the same kind of physicality, he's a bit taller, but he's a bit skinnier than Charlie. Obviously, sticking Burke on at the back, you're thinking, because they are. I mean, Derby were a big physical side, and I agree with the commentator who said that their striker had given Lloyd the most his toughest test so far. And I think that's pretty true. Berrett Diaz, I didn't think was firing on all cylinders, but he's a dangerous player as well. But I think with Derby at 1-0, I think it was easy for their manager to go into the change room and say, right, this is what we're going to change. This is what we're going to tweak. And I think for us, if Nathan's gone in and said, hey, look, it's been working, we've been battering them, just keep doing the same things. He should have sort of like maybe tweaked it earlier so they had more of a balance. Because I thought Coventry and Dock in the end were virtually anonymous. The ball was going past them a lot. And you need them to get on the ball. You need them to be moving it. And so like when Tanto came on, I can't remember how long it was before the end where Tanto came on, whether it was before the goal or after. But he's got a bit more physicality about him. So I'd have thought instead of Nibs, maybe put Tanto on in that role and have him closer to Miles as well. Because Derby were looking for the equaliser, it did leave gaps, but we didn't exploit them. And I'm thinking that's the disappointing thing of someone like Apter. If you're taking Carey off, fine. Put Apter on because he's going to run at people. He's going to push them back. And then you're going to say to your defenders, fine, we've put more defenders in. So if you do clear it further, we can push up faster. So I think tactically it was just a mismanagement of players. But again, you don't want to be sort of like grumbling. What are you grumbling? We got a point. Yeah, we got a point away from home. It's great. Derby, I think, were there to be taken. But in the second half, it showed that in this division, if you don't take your chances, another team will punish you. And that's the thing. I mean, do I see Derby doing anything this year? No, I don't. I really don't. But they've been in that division for quite a while. They know how to get the results. They know how to grind them out. So, and in the end, it's come down, I think, the 89th minute where Kaminski's made a good save down at his left-hand post. He's got his body in. And like I say, that could have quite easily rebounded off someone and gone in. They could have got picked up a late one and we'd be sort of like going what ifs and what we could have done kind of thing. So happy with a point, move on, look at Preston and say, right, let's tweak where we think we can improve. Because that's what it needs. It doesn't need major overhauls. It really doesn't. It just needs tweaking. And unfortunately, at the moment, with the players we've got out, like especially with Godden, he's the one I think would make a bit of a difference to us up front. Because I'm thinking if one of those late chances had fallen to him, I think he'd have just stroked it straight into the back of the net because he's that kind of natural finisher. And unfortunately, with Nibs and Dock and Tanto, they're very keen, and I love that, but they don't have the calmness of Godden in front of goal. And I think that's what we're missing.
I think that will come for Nibs, because I mean his goal scoring record's not bad, and Tantone he's scored a goal already this season. He's the only striker who has, and I think he was known a little bit to have snatched at chances when or when he's had time to think, not overthought it maybe, but when he actually has to sort of do it first time, then maybe he's more likely to score. All Hell Let Loose says sometimes we just have to accept that Derby improved in the second half, and a point was a fair result by the end of the game. That is, one thing you have to remember is that one of the unfortunate things about football is there are two teams on the pitch who are both trying to win the game and score goals, and sometimes Derby will step it up, and that's certainly what they did. Paul saying every game at this level is part of a steep learning curve for a number of these players, and that's fine. That is absolutely fine. I think if you listen to Nathan's presser in full today, sort of speaks about how we have taken to the level so far this season, and absolutely no complaints from me. I mean, if this doesn't tell you how big time we are now, Ethan says my Welling United supporting brother is now supporting Charlton home and away. We really are moving up in the world and becoming exciting to watch. I mean, if we can still support us from Welling, I mean, we have to go around to the Dog and Duck next and see if we can coax a few away from there and really build on our supporter base. Because I mean, to drag someone away from Welling United is no easy feat at all. Of course, we mentioned Kaminsky, Mark. As I said, his first ever save. It feels like, I mean, definitely the biggest save we saw from him so far, which is such a shame. The one from Bobby Clark that literally a minute later he conceded a goal, which it didn't feel like he'd do a great deal from with the header. But yeah, nice to see Kaminsky. Other than that weird punch in the first half, which he seems to be gaining a bit of a reputation for. Nice to see him show, really what we're sort of hoping to have seen from him, and haven't really had the chance to find out yet.
Yeah, I mean, I was really happy when he came in the door. Kaminsky, I was over the last couple of seasons, I thought he was, Luton's probably best player. I remember watching him in the Premiership, and he was making some amazing saves and was a big presence. Yeah, the one where he sort of like punched it. Thing is with the goalkeepers, they're told get it away from your area, and if he feels that he's going to get more distance on it by punching it, that's what he's going to go with. I heard that people who were sat behind Nathan knew that Nathan wasn't particularly impressed with that. I think some choice words and at least £15 in the Charlton Live swear jar, I think, from him from that. But that save he made, he didn't go down early, he didn't come rushing out, no, rush of blood to your head. Crosses and stuff. Could he have done more with the header? No, it was a good header. It was close. I mean, it was a couple of yards down to his left. It would have been a heck of a save. That's not a set piece goal. I don't. The corner had come over. They didn't score from it. You can say they recycled it. It's not rugby. They didn't score a corner. They scored after the ball had come out and bounced off. So I disagree with people saying, "Oh, yeah, it's a set piece goal." But I like him, Kaminsky. He seems calm, and I like that in a keeper. His distribution is quick. I think sometimes he's got the ball and he's looking straight away. I know different rules this season for the keepers with the 8 second rule, where the referee starts counting down. And a couple of times I've seen it recently where the referee's literally got a finger up, and well, not that finger, and the goalie suddenly remembered to drop the ball. So that's something just to keep an eye on. If referees are just going to get bored of doing it. And I think he's happy with his defence in front of him as well. So, he seems to be a good fit for us, Kaminsky. And like I say, he's a decent enough stopper. You're not concerned about him. I know Ash made one or two mistakes where he's come out and made the wrong decision. Mannion, I thought was immense in the playoff final, caught everything, and is a decent keeper. We talked about it, one of the first two games. I said about I wasn't sure about having two senior keepers, but obviously with one's been out injured anyway, it does make more sense now. But he seems to have all the attributes we like in a keeper. He doesn't seem to be ego driven. He just seems to be focused. And someone's on the radio yesterday, someone was saying, "Oh, the goalkeeper's the easiest position to play because you can do nothing for 80 minutes." Blah 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 blah. I'm thinking No. You're not doing nothing for 90 minutes. You're concentrating. You are concentrating. So when it does come, you're ready for it. You're not switching off as a goalkeeper. And that's the thing with coaching and coaching. You can't switch off, because whether it's the first minute, the 30th minute, or the 89th minute, you've got to be on your toes, ready to deal with something. And I like Kaminski. I don't really see many people doubting him or grumbling about him, so I can't see it being changed.
Yeah, Stuart says Kaminski is fine. He did remind me a bit of Thuram, though, with his flapping, but he's known as a good shot stopper. Robert says, no keeper is perfect, even Alisson, but I'm happy with Kaminski. He's either not needed because of our defence, or in a game where we're under the cosh, he's a great shot stopper. And yeah, we saw that on Saturday. On Tuesday night, I should say, which was really impressive. A couple of people mentioned maybe there was a bit of tiredness in the second half, which I think I agree with. Stuart said that. Paul Fox sort of said similar. Maybe we ran out of steam a little bit. And Andrew saying, was it second game in a few days too much for him? Hard to keep up those levels. And we are an energetic, high pressing, high tempo, front footed side, and that is Nathan asks a lot of them. I mean, he asks a lot of everyone, doesn't he? But that's fair. David felt we didn't go for the killer blow at the start of the second half. And he did. Yeah, we were third before they equalised, which was a shame. I had that live table up myself. Looking at us third in the Championship again. We're sitting here slightly deflated because we've got a fair point at Derby, but could have been more. And again, what does that say about the start to the season we've had and how impressive we have been? Nick said, I think Ramsey has the highest potential in our squad, but he looked a little bit devoid of confidence on Tuesday, which was surprising and resulted in a few shaky moments. So was that nasty one quite early on, where he just got caught the wrong side of that ball in behind, where Bell had to step in. That moment right at the end as well, when we countered, when he didn't know what to do. But also, I think it was near the start of the second half where he put in a great block. That was a big moment from Ramsey. Well, it's sort of midway through, actually, had your man. It was a tightish angle, wasn't it? And he put in a big block. So, yeah, I mean, all hell let loose was asking if he keeps his place for Saturday. That will certainly be an interesting decision for Nathan.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that first one where we got caught on the shoulder, but Bell, as we talked about before, reads the game well. So he's anticipating that happening, and he's got across. And then Ramsey did one of his highlight reel tackles on Aguiman, where we got across. And that last pass, where that's what I was saying. Imagine someone like Apter in that position, who would have probably taken it and curled one in. And it was just such a weak side-foot pass, which they cut out. And you're just like, oh, that was just a bit frustrating. He did all the hard work. Whether it still plays on his mind, the tackle from that game, which he got sent off for, I don't know. He seems like a fairly confident chap. So maybe it will take a couple of games for him to get back into his swing. I wouldn't drop him, in all honesty, because I think him against, if they move small on that side, will be an interesting battle. And I think Bree ahead of him, as I always say, gives him that confidence to almost play out from sort of like the back as well. So it could be just a couple of games to get back into the swing of things. I mean, it's strange with the subs, because who we had left, Berry, Rankin, Costello, Anderson, and Maynard Brewer. And it's, I'd seen someone in the chat said about Karoy, do you put him on for his energy in the last 10 minutes or so? So, I mean, it's a hindsight thing. They scored on the 78th. So if you were thinking, put him on for 10 minutes to maybe take Doc or Kov off, then you can do that. But it's like with the new guy we've come in, the Cuban guy, Anel. Nathan saying, oh, no, he's fit and he could potentially be in the squad. But you look at that and thinking, well, who do you then take off the bench? Do you take Rankin Costello off, who hasn't really had a chance to do good or bad? Berry's just coming back an injury, probably the most likely person to lose his place on the bench. And it gives us another option on that side. But it seems to be sort of like a strange bench to fill now. That makes sense, because you got your defenders and midfielders, but are we just going to be doing the same thing? And you were thinking, who have you got for that? And like you said about Nibs, yeah, I'm pretty certain Nibs will come good with his assists and goals he got last season. he will do well. But it's a strange one. If he's coming on and he's following a tactic because he's been instructed to do this X, Y, or Z, as opposed to his natural game. But if you look at Carey seems to be floating a bit more. He'll drop deep to get the ball. He'll support up front, and he's in that sort of like centre bit. But you're not surprised when you see him out on the side getting the ball or offering a pass. So it's difficult with the people you've got there now. I mean, I know we were talking about sort of Ramsey, but I don't feel dropping him because Preston is going to be. It's one of those ones where I look at it and I'm thinking this is going to be a really tough test for us. I mean, really tough. They're physical, they're quick, they can score goals. So Deepdale is one of those grounds, can be slightly intimidating, but we've got a lot of positives to take from the last 4 games. So another point, yeah.
Excellent stuff. Well, we'll find out exactly how difficult that game at Preston will be after the break when we hear from our Preston correspondent. We will be back in 30 seconds or so.
PSF Steel Limited is a trade supplier of steel fabrication and erection services to the new build, construction and refurbishment market in southern England. With their unrivaled depth of experience, they excel at providing their customers with high quality and cost-effective steel fabrication solutions. Their customers include national and regional house builders, such as Barratt Homes, Bellway Homes, the Vistry Group and Taylor Wimpey. They pride themselves on their service-based ethos and commitment to customer service excellence, which includes full technical backup and on-site services and support. If you would like more information, go to www.psfsteel.co.uk. That's www.psfsteel.co.uk.
Hello fellow addicts, I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the river. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live on your Thursday evening. This is the big match preview. Looking ahead now to our trip up to Preston on Saturday. Delighted to say that we're joined by George Hodgson from the Lancashire Post, who covers Preston home and away. Good evening, George. How you doing, my friend?
Evening, yeah, good mate. Thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, really good. Thanks. Really looking forward to actually getting up to Deepdale this season after the cup tie got moved around so much last year that I couldn't actually go. So first trip up there in about 5 or 6 years for me. And I don't know what to expect from Preston. Unbeaten at home, sort of above us in the table. It feels like a reasonably good start for Hecky's side. How would you sort of sum it up so far?
Yeah, absolutely that. I think both teams will be looking at this game thinking if we can win, then, or maybe even get a point, we'll reflect on the second batch of games with real fondness that it's been a solid start. And yeah, North End have been good at home. They beat Leicester and Ipswich, which gave everyone a massive boost, and then went away to Derby and won, which was a great result away from home. And yeah, they just look pretty solid, to be honest. I think there was a bit of worry heading into the season after getting dragged into relegation trouble at the back end of last. But no, looking upwards now, really. And yeah, been more positives than negatives so far, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Preston feel like mainstays in the Championship for quite a long time now. I mean, you said there was worry towards the end of the season with what happened at the back end of last year. But I mean, how do Preston fans sort of see themselves as a club in the second tier? I guess not the biggest club, but not exactly a small club at that level. And do they go into seasons with expectation levels that are difficult to reach, or do they just go there just happy to be there, like maybe we might have done in our first season back up?
Yeah, I think the first few years after promotion, you were just happy to be solid and sort of in and around it and maybe trying to push for the playoffs. But then when you've been there for 10 years, you know what it's like. People get used to it and you want to go for bigger things. And North End had a few seasons of doing that under Alex Neil, where they were really close. And then they've been away from it really for a few years. But last season, to be honest, was the first one where you've been dragged into trouble. And they've never been near the relegation zone before that season. So I think Heckingbottom's the right man to get him pushing back up towards the top of the table, or certainly top half. But I looked at the table, the league before the season started, and thought, there's no weak teams. This is going to be really tough. So they just need to be at it every single match. But no, good start. So I don't think people are looking over the shoulder too much at the minute. They're trying to think, can we push beyond where we expected and get back to challenging again?
Hey George. Obviously,
Hey,
I'm going to start with the big one, Mr. Small, as it were, Thierry. Now, we obviously during the summer were disappointed that he didn't sign. He felt that he needed to push on in his career, and he felt Preston was the right place to do it. And working under Heckingbottom was doing that. We've evolved from him. I mean, he was great for us. He was spasmodic. Sometimes his crossing left a lot to be desired. But when Nathan had moved him onto the right side on the right flank, it seemed to get the best out of him. And Nathan trusted him a lot. Even when he wasn't great, he trusted him and kept faith with him. How have you found him settling in for you? And do you think he's going to take that next step on?
Yeah, I think it's been mixed really in terms of performance, but he's just really likable. I think you'll obviously be a bit of resentment towards him for leaving, but he's the exact kind of signing I think Preston fans have been crying out for, like a young lad who's got ceiling and potential, and they've gone away from it a bit. And yeah, he's the exact kind of signing I want to see the club making. And he's clearly not the finished article, because if he was, he wouldn't have come here. He'd have gone higher. But I think they can see the potential in him and the likable traits. And he's going to make mistakes. He was caught out defensively for one of the goals on Tuesday night, but you can see that potential there. And he spoke well in interviews. He's been infectious, and in the main, he was awesome against Leicester. Really, really good. But I think it's going to be a big year for him to establish himself at the level, because he's not played in this league, had he, before? So yeah, he's in the team every week starting. But interested to see how he handles Saturday, because I think when teams give Thierry space, he's an animal and he eats up the grass and causes problems. But if they don't give him much space to operate in, then we're sort of, the challenge for him is how can he make an impact in them matches where they don't suit him as much on paper. And I suspect Saturday might be one of them. So yeah, obviously confidence boost with his goal last time out at Hull, but yeah, it's going to be a season of learning, I think. But he's going to be a big player for us for sure.
Yeah, there's some very funny quotes from Nathan Jones today, sort of in reaction to the quotes he gave your paper earlier on in the week. Anyone who's not on Rich's Substack, make sure you check him out. But Nathan certainly highlighted how much he did for Thierry Small, and asked where his bottle of wine was, which was quite funny. Stuart's asking what sort of game did Preston play? Obviously under Hecky, who's had quite an interesting managerial career and not an unsuccessful one, to be fair to say. What sort of football can we expect from Preston on Saturday, particularly being the home side?
Yeah, the Heckingbottom described Charlton and Preston as quite similar today, and I understand what he means, where I think it's all about the team, really. They're not hell-bent on one way of playing, where a lot of managers are nowadays. So I think both teams are quite pragmatic, but whatever they do, however they set up for any opponent, underlying that will be aggression and intensity and energy. And like North End have to have that if they're going to go and win games and do anything in this league, because they've not got the quality and the financial clout of other clubs. So I think it's encouraging to see both teams have made a good start to the season. I think it gives you hope that you can still compete, because the Championship last few years has felt a bit like a mini Premier League sort of thing at the top. So I wouldn't say it's like absolute set style, but yeah, they'll come and they'll be aggressive, and I just think it'll be a real kind of ding dong battle, to be honest, and maybe a 1-0 either way.
So what would you say with Heckingbottom? Is he set in his style, like with a formation you play, or does he try to tweak it? Is he a tweaker during a game? Will move you from like a 5 to a 3 or a 4, or because it seems like with a lot of the teams I've watched this season, there's been a lot more fluidity in this division than there are in League One, where you tend to see teams just setting up with one way and that's it.
Yeah, he does play a back three in the main, but it's really fluid. It'll sort of spin round into a back four at times. I asked him today about, would you be willing to play a back four from the off more often? And he said, well, in games we actually are in a back four quite a lot. But yeah, there's constantly things changing. He'll go 2 up top sometimes, or 2 10s in behind a striker. So yeah, I think I'd imagine Charlton are pretty similar, where it might be a game where both managers are having to react to things the other manager does and things. So yeah, that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. But yeah, he's a pragmatic manager, and I think at Preston you need to be. You can't come in and say we're going to pass everyone else off the park, for instance. It's just not going to happen. So I think the fans are on board with him as a manager. He's relatable. He seems a good fit to me. I think Nathan Jones is a good fit for Charlton, and say the same for Hecky at Preston. So yeah, should be a good game between two good clubs, and I think it's a really tough one to predict, to be fair.
Yeah, and just finally, George, I mean, who would be the danger man for Preston that Charlton fans would be wary of? I'll do what I always do. Look who scored the most goals. So Osmajic, if I've pronounced that right, which I definitely haven't, he seems to have the bit between his teeth this season. Is he the danger man this year?
Been a bit quiet recently, but he was the main goal threat heading into the season. He's the one North End looked to finish chances, and he is clinical. But to be honest, it's the loan lads that have caught the eye so far. Alfie Devine on loan from Tottenham, and Lewis Dobbin on loan from Aston Villa. They've added quality to the team, and yeah, we're going to enjoy watching them. I think Harrison Armstrong made his full debut at Hull in the week, and the hype around him is off the scale. Like, people think he's going to be a star. So he was good at Hull. So yeah, I'd keep an eye on the loan lads. To be honest, they all look pretty classy, and Dobbin and Devine have scored a couple of goals each, and good goals as well. So be interested to see how you keep them quiet, actually, because Bristol City did for the first time in the last home game. So obviously Charlton will have seen that, and they might go about it a similar way. So all set up for an interesting game, I think.
Yeah, well, we are very good at keeping teams quiet. It's one of our strengths. George, thanks for your time this evening. I will see you up there on Saturday.
Pleasure. Thanks, guys. See you then.
That's George, our Preston reporter, joining us on Charlton Live this evening. Osmajic was the guy that bit someone last year. That's why I said bit between his teeth. I just was checking you got that, Mark. But yeah, excellent. Right, good to hear from George. Let's hear from Daddy. Nathan Jones spoke to Terry earlier on today to look ahead to Saturday's game.
It's great to see Luke Barry back in the squad on Tuesday. Obviously, Matty Godden still to come back, and now Josh Edwards with his injury. You mentioned after the game that it could be a while. Is there any further updates on Josh and Matt?
No, look, he's seen a specialist today, so we thought the specialist yesterday, but seeing the specialist today in terms of the time scales and so on. So, but it's not a short one. It's not going to be weeks. It's going to be a little bit longer than weeks, and that's disappointing because he's been in wonderful form, and he's taken to the level like a duck to water, and been excellent, and is will get better as well.
I know Hernandez joined us recently. He's going to be in contention soon as well.
He's in contention now. He was in contention on Tuesday night. To be fair, he was touch and go whether we included him, but yeah, he's had, and again, another 2 days training, a bit more integration with us as well. So look, he's ready to go.
It'll be 2 tough games on the road as we travel to Preston on Saturday. They're a point above us, unbeaten in the league at home so far. Good number of draws though, which is a factor for them last season too. It shows the level that we have to be at to get a result there.
Oh yeah, I mean, Preston's always a difficult game to go to. I've had some real battles at Preston. Last year we went there ironically and played very, very well, and probably should have got more from the game. But again, that was a learning curve for us. We made errors and didn't mark well at the corner, and that cost us, because overall the performance was outstanding. It was excellent considering we were a league below. So that was a taster for what's to come. I mean, they're again signed well, a really well coached, well drilled team.
There we go. That ends quite suddenly, doesn't it? That was Nathan Jones looking ahead to Saturday's game up at Preston. What were we expecting then, Mark? We've been pretty good this season, which is always a bonus. So, I go into any game with a level of confidence. But Preston unbeaten at home so far this season, with a danger man in Thierry Small, who will be really eager to do something against us, and we know what he's more than capable of. And actually, when it is a tight game and people get tight to him, that's when he's at his best to try and skill his way past people. So I think it will be quite a fascinating contest between whoever he ends up against for us. But yeah, what would be an acceptable result for you on Saturday? And a point away from home again is not exactly the end of the world, is it?
No, they got Smith as well, who has also scored against us previously. Another ex-Charlton contingent. It's one of those ones. If you offer me a draw before the game, I'll take it every day. If we're leading 1-0 and we get a draw, I'm going to feel the same, almost like Derby. If we get beat, it's not the end of the world. It's a tough league. It's a tough place. It's a strange one with looking at some of their results, because Hull were fully expected to be like one of the whipping boys this season, and yet with Ollie McBurney can score goals for fun. And I think if you notice with a lot of teams, they've just got one guy who's poking them in, like the guy at Coventry who scored a couple the other night. It's tougher. We don't have that because we've got it through the team. How do you keep Small quiet if he's coming down the right side? If Bell's on the left, Bell's experienced, maybe not as quick as Small. So do you pull out a left field and stick Ibby Fuller on that side? There's a lot on the long man's shoulders, and he hasn't made the bench recently. Do you just say, look, we've just got to be more defensive as a team and not give them the space? It's one of those ones. There's quandaries all round. And like I said, when we're looking at the bench, if you're going to bring O'Neill in, who do you then drop? Possibly, I'd say, I agree with earlier, Berry, just to say that Rankin Costello can possibly cover more areas, but we know that Luke Berry can be a threat popping into the box late if you get a chance. So it's a bit of a quandary. I think 90% of the team picks itself. I don't think you change the front two. I think Bree, Carey, Dock and Coventry across the middle, and then Lloyd, Gillespie, Ramsey there. It's Bell is for one. But again, it depends what Nathan thinking. Maybe I will sort of like try the formation, put it a bit more solid as a 4-4-2, which negates the space for Small, and then take it from there, because it's going to be a battle. I would take a point now, and that's not a defeatist. We can't get a win, because of course we can get a win. We know how good we've been this season in certain games. I mean, we did say we weren't going to hark back to the Leicester game, but that was a game where, if we'd won that 5-1, it wouldn't have been wrong. And we keep saying about getting those levels. The worrying thing, I thought Tuesday, we did look tired, which was rare for a Nathan team to be almost blowing out your backside on 90 minutes. And so when it was, I think was it 6 minutes extra time? And you're a bit like, this can, if we're sitting deeper and deeper and deeper and we're blowing a bit, it's going to be difficult. But, as it was, they got over the line. I think any away game, you want to be taking something from a point, 3 points. But again, it's that early in the season. It's I'm not going to be sort of like wearing ashes if we lose. So, but it's that kind of, I've said it all show. It's some of these are such 50-50 games. And, Preston at home, they're unbeaten. Hey, let's go and let's give them their first loss.
It's interesting. Just on Thierry, so a couple of people are pointing out he has been playing mainly on the left for Preston this season. I'll just flip through the last few games, and that's where he seems to be. Although, according to FotMob, he might have played on the right on Tuesday over at Hull City. Although you never really trust these websites that much, but depending on which side he ends up on as well, that's part of it. But bear in mind, when he was playing right-sided for us, he was playing out of position, and that's why it was such an impressive performance for us. James said I thought Small wasn't going to be missed. Now he's a world beater. We know that he's got qualities that will be difficult to deal with, but at the same time, we've got qualities that he'll struggle to deal with, which is we don't give a great deal away. Isaac pointing out that he was on the right when he scored on Tuesday. It was from a corner though, wasn't it? So he might have just been floating about. So it's always nice to see a corner come to something. That's always a big favourite of mine. Our team selection. So, I mean, Jake was asking a question earlier about Apter. Obviously, he'll feel hard done by. But in terms of actual selection, I guess comes down to the right side of the wing backs again. So Bree can play there, Ramsey can play there. which way we're going to go with that one, I guess, is maybe decision number one. Or would Burt or could Ramsey go inside and then Apter? Like, I mean, who out of all those potential options you have, which way would you go, Mark, on Tuesday for that sort of right centre back, right wing back, those two roles that have been flitting about the last couple of weeks?
Oh, I'm going Ramsey and Bree. I think I have to, and I think with Ramsey, he is mobile and can get around, and Bree, I think, has showed his quality in the last two games as well, and we haven't really sort of like seen him. He's a couple of like the goal for Macca, his delivery from that, and I think we have the firepower to damage them. And yeah, we are talking a lot about Small, and no, he's not a world beater, but he is a player we do know pretty well from the last season. And when he moved on that side, we were sort of like, we were raving about him. Did he have a best playoff final? No, but he didn't do anything wrong. It's one of those ones, you're going to talk about the players, and like I say, for whatever reason, if he felt it could improve him as a player, I mean, it certainly has improved his bank account, but it's one of those things. That's what players do. He's 21, so 22. It's one of those things. If he was going in the Championship anyway, and I'm pretty certain, no, Nathan did want to keep him. But if a club aren't going to offer silly money on longer contracts, which is the sensible thing to do, and if you think about the players who we've managed to bring in, because we've been sensible about it, it's the right thing to do. And it's one of those ones on Saturday. If will the Thierry who beats people then puts the ball 30 yards past the striker turn up, or will it be the Thierry who goes past somebody and puts in a lovely cross or a shot? It's let's hope it's for former, not the latter. But they've got threats all round, and I did say I just think it's just going to be another physical battle which we've got to stand up for. And it's a strange one because obviously being a Tuesday and they've travelled back and then had a day off and then start work Thursday, then they've gone up today. There's not a lot of time for rest and recuperate. No, what's the day? Thursday. Go up tomorrow. So not a lot of time for rest and working on stuff. So you're just going to say, right, these players, they should have reached pretty much like 85, 90% fitness levels now, this late in the season, or this soon in the season. So, you shouldn't really be worrying about it that much, but it just comes down to sort of like tactically, I think, and getting the break. We know we can look solid. We know defensively we can look solid. If Lloyd has a battle against this Ozempic, then it's as it was going to be, because he does seem a bit like, I'm trying to think of a guy who used to play for Fulham, the striker, who Piercy used to have the battles with.
Oh, Mitrovic.
He's that type of player. He's very physical. He's very bullying. And, we've got centre-halves. I mean, Lloyd's no slow coach, and he's physical as himself. So, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a double red card with them two having a scrap. So,
we'll see.
It could be one of those. But, yeah.
You get done for spot fixing if that comes out now. A couple of people talking about the strikers as well. Again, it's become a fascinating debate this year because Kelman and TC ain't scored goals yet, but there's been so many games this season where, I mean, Sheffield United, I think Tuesday at Derby, and there's plenty more where those two played a massive part in our performance, and definitely on Tuesday, definitely at Sheffield United, they play a big part in how we do. So, again, I'd be surprised if either of them didn't start. Keith said I'd just swap out TC for Tanto and see how it goes. Would you be tempted to make changes? I mean, when he's come off the bench overall, Alafe has done well, Lee Byrne has done well. I mean, these are all players that overall have done quite well, the strikers, but without scoring enough goals. So, I mean, it's a debate, but I think the game plan, to me, says you start with the same two.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I said at the start, I think they're developing an understanding between them now, Charlie and TC. And that's what you need from your front two. If that's what you're going to be working with, let the floaters float around behind them, but let your front two have an understanding. We've seen we've seen that over the years. I mean, I've always talked about different partnerships we've had as strikers when we've played like 2 up, and having that understanding is very important. I agree to a bit about Tanto. I'd like to see him get a longer run at it. I know he had more minutes on Tuesday night, but it's a bit of a longer run, and it's a strange thing. But then again, you can say, well, maybe Miles and Charlie can do something closer together. Miles is just a bit of an awkward peg in a hole sometimes, because you don't know who he's going to be working best alongside. Another big man, or is it going to be best if like crosses are coming in? I did say, I think last Thursday, you need your ammunition to be coming into Miles. You need your crosses to be coming in, which then you go back and say, the Breeze, the Aptors, even if keeps TC on, get them in and get the crosses in and start saying, right, let's put their centre halves under pressure, more, because we seem sometimes to be comfortable down the sides, but then we're coming back. And I'm just thinking, crossing.
Yeah. Jake said for the first time, I wouldn't swap TC or Kelman. Genuinely, we're a terror for defences. Unless we go 3 up top, then I'd throw Tantal on. But then who would you drop in midfield? Yeah, I mean, I don't think we change shape either, Jake. Jake's doing the same thing that we've been doing recently, which is just trying to get everyone on the pitch in some way, but then remembering you have to take someone else out. And we should talk about, I meant to talk about this in the first half of the show, but we had so much to talk about with Derby. Anel Hernandez signed on a short-term deal until January, 32-year-old. So it sounds like an out-and-out winger, left-sided. Spent the last few years with Norwich City, or did have loans away with Borough and Birmingham about 3 years ago. Paul says he won't be mucking about whenever he gets on, getting up and down the line, crossing, cutting in, getting shots off early. What are you expecting from him? It's a short-term deal, so normally that means it's a chance for him to prove himself for us, and vice versa, see if it's a good fit. But it's maybe something slightly different to what we have in terms of, or I guess TC is one that on paper can do that sort of stuff as well. But this is one who's got a lot more experience in the Championship.
Well, I think that's probably the defining factor why Nathan's gone and said, right, let's get a bit more experience on that side, because there have been a couple of times with TC, and he has. I did say last week, I think he's improved from game 1. But there have been a couple of times where he's got the ball and he's expecting the tackle or something, and he's just lost it. And I just think this guy coming in, the only slightly worrying thing, I didn't see the club do like a highlight reel of, normally when a player comes in, they'll show the goals or something. And but I haven't seen one for this guy yet. And I haven't spoken to my Norwich mate to find out what he feels about him. But, his experience, he's gone to clubs in the Championship, and we've seen with Bree coming in on the other side, how much that experience can help and will help. So obviously with a short-term contract, again, if he does nothing wrong and he's still there's every chance they might say to him, right, we'll give you one to the end of the season, and improve the squad. Because I think Nathan will still look in January to bring 1 or 2 in, whether that's Bree on a permanent, this O'Neill. But again, there's no point having a really good winger if he's crossing the ball and there's no one up front. And that's what I said. It's about the delivery sometimes, and having enough people up front who can get onto things, because you don't want to get to a situation where you suddenly have to stick one of your centre halves up to get the head on something. So, no, I'm interested. So,
yeah, excited to see how he turns out for us. Sam said he's a Norwich fan at work. He said he's a player with a lot of ability. Isaac said the main thing is he hates a lot of Ipswich players. Yeah, it sounds like there is a little bit of spice there. And we have got Ipswich coming up this month on a Tuesday night, haven't we? So maybe you can go there and break some legs and score some goals. Right, let's leave it there. Massive thanks to everyone who's joined us this evening. It was quite a good show for just a two people show. So thanks for all your input. Thanks to George from the Lancashire Post as well. Mark, been an absolute pleasure as it always is.
Always enjoyable, mate. Always enjoyable.
Lovely stuff. So don't forget to check out our merch store, charltonlive.etsy.com, to get your Charlton Live mugs. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. The subscription numbers have gone up nicely in the Championship. Just shows that promotion works out well for everyone, really, doesn't it? So yeah, make sure you do that. Subscribe wherever you see the pod on your podcast apps as well. Never miss another show. We will be back on Sunday morning to look back at the game at Preston. Make sure you join us 10 a.m. live on YouTube to do that. But for now, I'm Louis Mendes. This has been Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. Thanks for your time. We'll see you again on Sunday.